Today I want to talk to you guys about one of the common traps that many farmers fall into. Now, I came to this subject today from your guys' comments, so thank you for continuously engaging me on the YouTube channel and asking me good questions. Now, this is going to be a sort of accumulation of my own personal experience of making this mistake many times myself, the mistakes of hundreds of the people that I've consulted for, and of many of the thousands of students that I've talked to, engaged with, and heard from over the years. Now, what is this trap that you might ask? Well, it's the DIY trap. That's what I call it, the DIY trap. So, out on the internet space, on Facebook forums or user forums, Facebook groups, YouTube comments, things like that, I constantly hear from people, oh yeah, quick cut greens harvester, $500. I could make that for $100. Flame weeder, $800. Yeah, right, I could make that for $200. Bullshit. Now, many people might be able to make those things. Many people might have the actual skills to build these things. And you know what? If you're one of those people, have at it. But I call BS on most people that say they do. The problem with this, and the reason I want to call this out, is because this creates a noise in the space of people trying to get ahead and trying to move forward with their farms. You have these know-it-alls that come out and constantly say these things, and I think it gets in the heads of a lot of people, and it causes them to hesitate on things. So I want to dispel this in a number of different ways. So first of all, you got to understand what your time is worth. If you don't know what your time is worth, then you need to evaluate that. So for example, for myself on the farm, if I'm doing something on the farm, I want to be making $50 an hour of value in order for it to justify my time. If it can't create that amount of value, then I'm going to get somebody else to do it. So for example, if I need to do some carpentry work to build some things, if I can't build that thing and create at least $50 an hour for my time, it's not worth my time. I'm going to get somebody else to do it. Maybe I can pay somebody $30 or $40 an hour to do it, or hell, maybe I can pay somebody $100 an hour to do it if they're really good and they get it done really quickly. That's the key there. The other thing is that by spending the time to create something, have that research and development and that trial and error, takes time away from you focusing on what's important, and that's production. If you want to get into farming and make a living at this, that's your MO, that's your modus operandi, that's what you need to focus on. Tinkering with tools and trying to build the perfect thing is going to stop you from getting to your goal quicker. So in my experience with consulting, I'll just kind of give you a little window into probably one of the most common demographics of people that I've consulted for. It's certainly not everybody. I've consulted for many types of people in many different age groups from many different parts of the world. But the most common demographic of people I consult for are men between the ages of 35 and 45. So again, I don't consult for just men, but that particular demographic is the majority of people I consult for. And within that demographic, so let's just say even forget the fact that they're men between that exact age group. The one thing that's very common about people I've consulted for is they have a previous career behind them and they want to move forward quickly to get production happening fast. That's why they often come to me. And so people who are like this, they don't want to waste time screwing around with stuff. They're willing to spend the money up front because they've learned already in their previous career that they don't have the time to waste. Put down the money and get it going fast. So you're always trading either time and labor or capital. So if you were like me, when I started out, I didn't have kids. I wasn't in a committed relationship. I didn't have any significant debt. I had student loan debt, but that's insignificant to things that I have now, like a mortgage. I had time to screw around. I had time to try a little bit of this, try a little bit of that, figure out what worked and what didn't, and that's a lot of the content that I share with you guys here on YouTube. But I had that time. So now in my life, at 38 years of age, with a mortgage, with a family, I don't have time. And that's the demographic of most of the people that I've consulted for, And if you're like me, or like many of the people that I've worked for, then don't bother listening to the noise of people saying, I can make that for less, so on and so forth. Really what you're doing is you're just nickel and diming on a few $100s here and there and wasting a lot of time. And I've actually spent a lot of time in previous partnerships or friends that I've had in my community trying to make tools, trying to make things that, you know, I saw the marketplace producing, but at a cost that I didn't want to pay. And I can tell you, in most of my experiences, it was a waste of time. A friend of mine that I've known for many years, who has been farming for many years, almost as long as I have, he, in the early years of his farming, he was always in the shop messing around with stuff, but he was also a great farmer. And he was messing around with stuff, tinkering, trying it in the field, didn't work, refining it, so on and so forth. And it took him off the field, and then he paid for that because the people that he was delegating to get the tasks done in the field that he wanted to get done weren't getting done the proper way. So he was trading his time and labor to lose production and see mistakes happen in the field, or we call that slippage. And so he was always having to go and correct slippage. And so this is a common trap. And so here was a guy actually who was a skilled tradesman. Here was a guy that had a lot of skills and could build things quite effectively. Still, he was trying to make a lot of things that the marketplace already produced. And so if those things are out there, honestly guys, don't hesitate on a $500 or $800 expense. I mean, if we're talking about making a greenhouse. So I've built greenhouses. I'm standing in one here. I've got one next door, my hothouse, I built from scratch. So in that case, particularly the hothouse, I saved about $8,000 there to build it myself. I evaluated my time and I decided that that was a better economic decision than spending $8,000. I've also built a lot of greenhouses, so I knew that I was confident that I could do that and be effective with my time. But if you're not confident you can do that, it's better to spend the money. Because the thing is, the reality of it is, and I'm a person who I've not encouraged, or I don't encourage people to take on major debt. However, you can leverage debt, but you can't leverage time and labor. So you can borrow money at interest. You can't borrow time and labor at interest. There's no bank that's lending out time and labor. You have to put that time in yourself. So this is the reality of it. You know, you can take out a $20,000 loan and pay, you know, 4 or 5% interest on that money and get the capital you need to start your farm today so that you can get in production quickly. Or you can leverage your own time and labor and take longer to get into production. So it's up to you, but that's the principle of the matter here, is there's all this noise of people saying that, oh yeah, I can do that, I can do this. I think it's BS, personally, because a lot of these people who make these comments are just professional posters. They're not actually farmers doing it. They're people who are know-it-alls on YouTube, and there's many of them. Everybody's got an opinion, right? It's like, everybody's got an asshole, so what? Everybody's got an opinion, that's the way it is online. And so, if you're a person that wants to get into production, ignore the noise. I'm telling you, it is a waste of time to try and recreate everything when there's so much good stuff out there. So, you know, four common things I'll go through that I hear this all the time with, and I wouldn't even consider farming without these things. Number one, quick cut greens harvester. If you are a farmer that's going to grow greens like I do, you know, high density planted quick greens, that tool is, I wouldn't even consider growing greens without a tool like that. Some people think they can make it. Yeah, right. Another one is a flame weeder. So there's a couple different types of flame weeders out there. I think the New Farmer's Friend flame weeder that's $895 US is the best one on the market that I've seen. I wouldn't consider farming commercially without a flame weeder. Doing the stale seed bed and having weed-free beds is really critical to making your farm not only profitable because it reduces all the labor and time that it takes to manage those weeds. So if you can eliminate weeding, it's a massive labor saving, hence making you more money because you're spending less money on labor to manage those weeds. Number 3, another farmer's friend tool actually, is the caterpillar tunnel kit that they have. A lot of people think they can just do DIY greenhouses by bending all the steel and doing all that. I've done it. I'm telling you, if you're talking about a caterpillar tunnel, it is not worth your time in most cases. You know, there are some places in the world where you don't have access to those materials and you're gonna have to do it DIY. But if you're in North America, or at least many of the more populated parts of the world, you can get these kits. And a $1,200 investment for a 100-foot greenhouse that you get sent to you and you can start assembling right away, you can have this thing up in an hour or two, that's major, because you're gonna spend 50 to maybe even 100 hours to make it otherwise, doing all the drilling, screwing all the pieces together, bending it. Like, it's a lot of time, and I've built a lot of greenhouses, so I can tell you that that upfront cost is negligible when you look at what could actually get you on the farm. So the 4th one, which is relatively new, is the paper pot transplanter. This tool has saved us hundreds of hours on our farm. I wouldn't consider growing a farm the way that I have for years without this tool, and I don't even do as many transplants as many other growers. Our farm's a 1/4 acre, and all we're really using this is for Salanova lettuce, but I am using it for things like spinach, baby greens at the beginning of the season. I'm using it for radishes, I'm using it for turnips on the shoulder season. It's saving us a significant amount of time in the field. And so the thing with that is, not only does a tool like this give you the opportunity to spend less time in the field, but it gives you the option to do other things. So, you know, an issue for people that are doing transplants, if you're in the spring or the fall or even in the winter and it's cold out, it's less time spent in uncomfortable conditions. You slow down, you get unmotivated. That also detracts you from getting other tasks accomplished, and it often requires many hands on deck to get it done. Now in the summer, when, you know, down in like deep south like Tennessee, where you've got July, August, September, uncomfortably hot, you've got to transplant 10 100-foot beds of something. That's another all hands on deck task that's got to get done quickly. With the paper pot transplanter, one person can get it done in around an hour, and then that task is done. Other people can focus on other things. So there's many different ways of looking on how that tool saves you money. But it's considerable when you think about how it can actually keep the morale of your crew up, because you're not drudging it out in uncomfortable conditions. Yes, you've got a little bit more upfront cost on materials, but when you really factor in the labor and you quantify that over many months or weeks of the season, the savings are huge. So those are 4 things that I wouldn't consider farming that out. I don't hear a lot of people saying that they can make the paper pot transplanter. I'd love to see somebody try. But those other 3, people always say, oh yeah, I can make that. Yeah, right. Don't listen to the noise. In my opinion, if you've got a bit of money and you don't mind leveraging the debt, and hey, if you got a family and time is ticking, it's better to leverage capital than it is to leverage time and labor. Those are my thoughts today. I hope you guys found that helpful. We'll talk to you later.